All right, hello. I'm Fessehaye Adal. I'm in CNIT 176, which is Information Technology Architecture class, and I'm going to tell you about my project, which is the network-wide ad blocker Pi-hole and VPN. So let's get started. So over the business case, I was curious to see how a VPN and a Pi-hole would affect the Linux system administration. Also, I was intrigued. Also, I wanted to see if the ad blocking would work on a high ad website and how it would improve my privacy network wide. Also, I was interested. Also, I wanted to see if VPN enabled secure remote access for my personal network, and also the work that I've done in this project will correlates to career work in cybersecurity, networking, and IT architecture. Now let's go over the components for the Raspberry Pi. We have the CPU, which is the control processing unit for the software. The Ethernet and the Wi-Fi are needed together to communicate with each other. Also, you have the micro SD for OS and server applications, and you have the input-output peripheral for monitoring and debugging the system. And this could be the mouse, this could be the keyboard, this could be the router, this can be any component that you attach on the Raspberry Pi. I have the Raspberry Pi 5. And you also have the GPIO pins for communication, within the other electrical components. Continuing on with the connections, for the OS, I have the Raspberry Pi OS. That's the default OS for the Raspberry Pi 5, and as such for the other models. For the application layer, I installed WireGuard VPN, and I also use Pi-hole DNS filtering to block others from using certain sites. This is something that most businesses use people if they have guest people that are temporarily using their Wi-Fi, or they have their employees on this Wi-Fi. That is something that most businesses would usually do. For my network stack, I have the TCP/IP for DNS queries and VPN tunnels. For the security layer, I install the firewall and encrypted VPN traffic, and I store the information. I removed the OS from the micro SD, and this was updated later by the APT package manager. So week one of the project was just the start. So I first installed the Raspberry Pi OS using the imager, as well as configuring the Wi-Fi and system updates using the terminal. Then afterwards, I set up the secure shell or the SSH protocol to send commands to computer over an unsecure network. And then finally, but last but not least, I ensured the system was up to date by running these two commands. First, I run sudo apt update, and then I ran sudo apt full dash upgrade. This made sure that everything worked while it was rebooting, and it was. So that was week one. Just simple, just installing the Raspberry Pi OS into my monitor and just making sure everything worked. And it did. Moving on to week two, which is mainly installing the Pi-hole. So I installed the Pi-hole with this line, as you can see, which is curl/SSL with the bash. This installed the Pi-hole in my Linux administration system. And after I did that, I configured the network settings. I assigned a static IP address, and also I assigned the DNS provider for CloudStream. The IP address was important to make it static, as there are only as when you only have one IP address, then it it less complicates the process. And next, I set the hotspot devices to use Pi-hole for DNS filtering, which is more utilized later on. And then I tested the Pi-hole functionality on high usage websites like CNN to make, and you will see later down in the video how that played out. For week three, this was involving the VPN. This was the one that I had to stick to, and I had to have a lot of perseverance through, but we got there. So first, much like the Pi hole, I installed the VPN with the Pi VPN script, which is much similar to the Pi hole script. And after that, I created my VPN client profile my with my mobile device right here. And then after I did that, I downloaded the WireGuard app on my phone. So that way I can connect my mobile phone to VPN by scanning the WireGuard QR code that I made use with my Linux system. After that, I attempted port forwarding on hotspot limitations. Finally, for the last week, it was about final testing and making sure everything was good. For the troubleshooting process, this was important. It was basically seeing what I can and can't do. That's basically how I troubleshooted my process. And there were some things that I could do and some things that I couldn't do based off of the Wi-Fi. I did final testing to make sure everything that I could do on the Wi-Fi, make sure that everything cooperated, which it did. And then I documented results on these slides as well as progress throughout the weeks to make sure that I was doing everything that I needed to do. And then I gathered video footage with these slides for presentation to show you guys. And that was all of the weeks that we did. I also documented my results for the TPS reports. Each Thursday, I would configure these results on, I would put my results on the TPS reports to document my progress. Here's the results that came out of this project. So the Pi-hole successfully blocked ads network-wide for a connected device. The VPN connection established between mobile device and home network. And this improved my privacy and performance when browsing on the internet. Also, the confirmed my IP masking with VPN was confirmed and used what is my IP address and I used what is my IP address.com to ensure that it masked the same IP address. As for the troubleshooting, I ran into some problems. First of all, my micro SD did not detect during imaging. So what I had to do was do manual domain name system, or DNS for short. I had to do DNS edits to /etc/dhcpcd.conference. I did that and then it worked. Secondly, and the biggest error I ran into when installing the Pi-hole was I kept coming across the could not resolve host error while trying to install it in my Linux system. And then when I ran into that problem, one of the solution that worked was I did static IP address assignment on the Raspberry Pi terminal. This less complicated things, as I said earlier ago, which made it easier for the Pi-hole to be installed on the system. And finally, the biggest error that I ran into and the one that I couldn't do was trying to connect my laptop to the VPN. And what I could do was connecting my laptop to the VPN. I used mobile device instead of laptop, instead of trying to use my laptop. So one of the things that went well was the Pi hole, and the total the total queries right now is about like 300, is going up to like 400, and the queries blocked is 138. And the proof of that working is that is going to go up soon. So so those are results from the previous test that I ran. Also, that is the amount that the percentage is blocked out of all those domains that are listed. And I'm gonna run a speed test soon here in a bit. So you can see I got both the Pi-hole right there on one side and the speed test website on the other. As it goes, it's download it's downloading the information needed. That 55. That's where it peaked. And everything is looking good so far. It's downloading and it's uploading the information needed, necessary to track. And those are the results. As you can see, it was multi-connection. It shows my IP address, which is the one that showed on the whatismyipaddress.com. So that's a good thing. And that means it worked. And the number of queries had gone up from previously. It just keeps going up. So those are one of the main things that went well, is that the Pi-hole worked and that blocked ads. So okay, and now I'm going to show you one of the steps that I could not get past, unfortunately. So as you can see right here, I generated not one, but two QR codes from the WireGuard. It's because when I tried to do the ls/home/pi/configs, nothing would show up. So then what I decided to do was go deeper into the FestPi guest to look at some of the stuff that I have there, and then I found the configs. So as you can see right there, this wasn't working. I kept trying, nothing was working. So I decided to go into LS, and then I found the FastPi. Then I went to the configs, and then I found all the stuff that I've been doing, which is the laptop, mobile, and the Raspberry Pi. I was trying to do laptop first, but then that wasn't working, so I just decided to try it and make another one and see that would work, which was what the mobile is for, and that wasn't working. So when I went deeper into the FastPi and then finally found the configs, and I finally was able to CD configs, um, I found all three of them in there. So after I recognized that, I did ls/home/festpi/configs, and then found those three. Then I did the Pi VPN QR for for the laptop one, and then finally was able to generate the right QR code. However, the problem was when I tried to go into my laptop and I tried to manage the file, and I tried to install it, it didn't happen to be anywhere. I looked through all places, just could not find it, even in the Raspberry. So that was the problem. So that was the one problem that I couldn't get past while doing this project. Okay, now that I have showed you some of the troubleshooting, now let's move on to some of the takeaways. So some of the key takeaways from this project was that I now learned the importance of a stable network for server reliability. Having a stable network is more efficient for doing whatever work you have and automating whatever tasks that you need to complete throughout the day. It also gave me a little more deeper understanding of the Linux command line troubleshooting. At first, I was really iffy about it and was didn't really know how to use it, but now I kind of know, like, I kind of got the gist of it after just trial and error. And I even learned about real world DNS and VPN configuration practices, which is good for me because that's one of the main things that you learn in technology architecture. And now I am aware of some of the mobile hotspot limitations. I'm aware of what that is versus the home router capabilities, and that it's a little bit, and that's a little bit impossible to pull stuff off from if you are just doing it on a network that's blocking everything like Purdue's Wi-Fi is. And that's the end of the project. I hope you enjoyed this video and see you later. Goodbye.